Hey everyone, welcome to the Sackhoff Show. I am your host, Katee Sackhoff. Welcome to this wonderful episode. It is October 29th. I know this because I have so much to talk to you about. Before we get into the guest, I want to remind you all to stick around for the hindsight afterwards, where I always drag my producer down, Jeph, with me, and we talk about the episode and talk about things in my life. But now I want to tell you all about my guest. This week's guest is Sasheer Zamata. I am so excited. This is the first guest, you guys, that has come on the podcast that was arranged by a studio. Like my first interview that wasn't like me calling a friend and like forcing them to come on my podcast. And I was really nervous because I have never met Sasheer, and big fan of SNL, big fan of her stand-up. You would know her, again, from her show Woke or Home Economics, but SNL, and then most recently on Agatha All Along. She plays the character of Jennifer, which is what she's promoting. So I want to let you know that actually the last episode of Agatha All Along airs tomorrow on Disney+. So make sure to check that out. You could probably binge and catch up in time to watch that, just in time for Halloween. And I just love this episode, you guys. I watched her stand up the night before the interview just to do some more research, and I was laughing out loud. I literally felt seen as a woman in so many places in the stand up, and I highly suggest that you check that out as well as Agatha All Along. We just touch on so many fun things, and it's a great interview, and I really hope that you enjoy it. I'm going to get out of your way because you also have a bunch of Disney Plus to binge until tomorrow. So right after this, go do that. So I'll finally get out of your way for my guest, my new friend, Sasheer Zamata. It's very nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too. Thank you for having me.
Of course. I'm so excited to talk to you. Sasheer, you are the first interview that I've done where I have no history with you. Like we've never met. So I am so nervous. So nervous.
Why? We are creating history. History is happening.
This moment. In this
moment.
Yeah, it is.
By the end of the hour, we will be fast friends.
Oh, I hope so. I wore my my Halloween earrings because I know we're going to talk about witches.
Spooky season.
Yeah. We're going to talk about the spooky season. How's press been going for Agatha?
It's been great. It's been very fun. I love talking about this show, so it's been nice.
Yeah.
And I think everyone really is leaning into the spookiness of it and the witches and all of the magic of it all. It's very fun.
It's a really good time for it to come out. Like, it would have been awkward if it came out like, December 24th. It would have been a little weird.
Yeah, like feels a little tonally off.
It's a little well planned. Is there, because I've done the whole press thing, are there any questions that you've been asked? What is the question that you laugh every time and you're praying to God that I don't ask you?
Ooh. I guess a question that we get asked a lot, which is not a terrible question, but it's just like, was it hard singing next to Patti LuPone? Which, no, I'm welcoming this. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. Yes, of course I want to do that.
Yeah.
But I think maybe because these are people who are not performers asking this question, so they're like, that would make me die, or like I would be so scared to do that. Where I'm like, sign me up. Please put me in, coach.
Well, and you sang so much on SNL.
I
feel like you did.
Yeah.
So it's not, I would imagine that it's not something, I mean, obviously Patti is like a freaking legend, but it's not something that you haven't not done before.
This is true. Yeah, I grew up singing. I sang in my church choir. I sang in show choir in high school, musicals in college, musicals after. So yeah, I'm not new to this.
Yeah. Did you always want to go into comedy, or is it something that you decided to pursue later?
I think I was always a fan of comedy. When I was younger, I was a huge fan of SNL and Mad TV and
Yeah.
Whose Line Is It Anyway? But I just had no idea how those people got there and really didn't even think that was an option. I was just like, I love this. And then when I got to college, I saw improv happening and was like, ooh, maybe I'll try out for that. And I did try out and did not make the team, but then was friends with other people who were also rejects of the one improv team that we had on our campus. And so we created our own group that still exists.
Really?
Yeah, it's still an active group at the college, and yeah, people are now. There's two,
So
or
I was
maybe
gonna
there's
say,
more.
are there
I don't know.
parallel ones where they're just sort of like, you can do this one or you can do this one? This one's really good.
Yeah, I think we created like different tones,
Yeah.
and different styles, which was very cool. And then when I moved to New York, I thought I wanted to do more theater. I was like auditioning for off-Broadway stuff and Broadway stuff, but I kept going to the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater and watching improv, and I was like, I think I gotta take a class. And then very quickly, like, fell in so hard and took a million classes, was on different teams, was doing sketch at the same time and stand up at the same time. And then eventually I was like, oh, this is what I want to do. And it's done.
What is it about it that you find? Because watching your stand-up show, you radiate on stage. It's
Thank you.
very clear that not only are you a phenomenal writer and storyteller, but you're so, like, it feels like it energizes you. What is it about that whole process that you love so much, that inspired you when you first started, where you're like, oh, this is my thing?
I really love connecting with an audience. Like, live performance just feels so good. And I think maybe I figured that out in college. Well, actually, I figured it out in high school, because I remember I did a government camp where we all ran for office and like kind of had a microcosm of a governmental system.
Huh.
And in order to run, you had to write your own speech and do it in front of the whole camp. And there was like 800 girls. And I wrote my own speech. I wrote one joke at the top of the speech and it killed. It was like, there was like a faulty elevator in one of the dorms we were staying in. And I was like, you better vote for me before you die in this elevator. And I was like, oh my God, she mentioned the elevator. And then they kept laughing at me throughout the speech, even though that was the only joke I wrote. And I was like, this feels good. What is this? What is this power? And yeah, so I knew I liked making people laugh, but I still didn't know how to like tap into that until much later in life. Well, not much, but in my 20s. And then, yeah, I think just being able to like speak from a personal experience, but still have so many people relate to what I'm saying feels really nice.
Yeah. Were your parents supportive of you going into the arts?
I think my dad is kind of like, as long as you're happy. He's like, just, you're safe, you're healthy, I want you to be happy. And I think my mom, same thing, wants me to be happy, but also wants me to like survive and thrive. So I think at first she was like, well, where's the money gonna come from? And I was like, it'll come. I'll eat off my dreams. And
because that satiates
and then
you.
it did. Yeah, exactly. That's all I need. Yeah. So, but I think a lot of parents are just want their kids to be secure.
Yeah.
And I don't come from a family where we have a lot of performers, so I think it was a new thing for some members of my family to see and see it work. So thankfully it's working.
Was there a point where you think that they were like, oh, she's going to be okay?
I think for my mom, when I got on SNL,
Yeah.
I think she was like, oh, okay. Even though I had done TV stuff before that point, but she was like, okay, she has a job. Great.
Do your parents go to your stand-up?
Yeah. They've seen my stand-up before. Yeah, a few times. Anytime I'm like back home in Indianapolis or in a city that's nearby, they try to come see me, which is
Yeah.
nice.
My mom knows, like my parents have, they've heard, I'm like slightly crass. And my mom is like, every once in a while, she just like covers her eyes and she's like, oh, Jesus. Like, oh my God. Have you ever like told a joke and like been like, oh my God, they're there?
Well, it's funny. I guess I have the benefit, question mark, that my mom is more crass than I am.
Oh my God, I
So
love it.
any wild thing I could say on stage, she has said something wilder to my face. So she really hasn't been fazed by anything I've said. And I think there's been moments where I have said things on stage in front of my dad where I'm like, well, I don't know, we'll see the reaction. But he's just laughing. He's just laughing at it. He just thinks it's genuinely funny. So yeah, thankfully no one's been like, could you not talk so much about your pussy? Like, could you reel it in a little bit?
I was gonna say I want to bring it to witches, but you have this like bit that is like, I was like dying when we're talking about things that get shoved in vaginas. And it was all about the broom handle with like psychedelics on the end of the thing, and like witches, back in the day, getting themselves off and flying high. It was such a perfect bit. Perfect. And the audience being brought into it was it was like chef's kiss. But like that whole, your stand-up is so much about witches. And you have talked about, I mean, not so much about it, but it's in there. And you've talked about how you're really big into manifesting things. Did you know before, and you were like, I can't keep it in, and it was like putting itself into your one woman show? Or were you really just like that into witches before?
I was really that into witches before. Yeah, this was like completely separate. I was already doing my own like research and digging on witch history because it's just like fascinating to learn about all the ways women and other people who have been labeled as other or dangerous or whatever the witch connotation carries in order to remove them from society. And that has happened for a long time for women. And I just, I wanted to find a way to talk about it, but also like tie it into things today. And I wouldn't call myself a history buff, but I do get a kick out of finding tidbits that may be little known or not really spoken about, and bringing it to the audience like, did you know? And people are like, we didn't. We had no idea. And
I mean, it never would have occurred to me that witches were riding brooms, but like inside their vaginas. It never, you know what I mean? Like I wouldn't have been like, oh yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't have guessed either. But like, I guess we also never thought about why they're even riding brooms. Like, there's a reason for everything, and it's like, well, actually, that's a pretty clear one. They are literally riding.
They're not like legitimately riding brooms.
Yeah, these brooms aren't taking them anywhere.
I mean, I
except to ecstasy.
Exactly, that's the only place. What was the process like for getting the role of Jennifer?
It was, I mean, honestly, not too different from other shows I've auditioned for. I had to like send in a couple self-tapes, and then I did a producer session with Jack Schaefer, the creator of the show. And she was so welcoming and open, and we like played a little bit, but I only got so many lines. Like I only got like a couple scenes, and I didn't really know the scope of the character. I didn't know the scope of the show. I knew what the show was about, but I didn't know like where we were going with it. And yeah, I just tried to play as much as possible and like see how I can embody this character. And then it happened.
Did they make you sign away your firstborn before you got the sides? Yeah. I think they own both of my children at this point. So you said that you knew about it. Did you have complete context of your audition? Like, did you know who the character was going to be, or was it very, very secretive?
Very secretive. I mean, I guess I knew that the show, that it was an audition for the Agatha show, but
Okay,
I
cool.
didn't know who this character was going to be. Um, I was hoping a witch, but I didn't really know. And yeah, I was really kind of just hoping and guessing on what version of this character they wanted. But they described like a self-care guru type person, and I just try to make Jen as Gwyneth Paltrow as I could possibly do.
As Gwyneth Paltrow, well, there you go, as Goopy.
As goopy as I could, yeah.
So tell me a bit about Jennifer. Like, for people who haven't watched Agatha or don't, know the Catherine Hahn character, like, what is Jennifer's? What is her deal?
Jennifer Kale is a potions witch, and she uses the environment and nature to create tinctures and healing ailments to heal people. And as you watch the show, you'll see like she's kind of been, not only is she a witch and has been outcast from the community, but she's kind of been outcast from the witch community because she has been bound and lost her powers. And so in the show, it's like everyone has a goal they're trying to reach. Everyone has something they want to achieve at the end of the road. And Jen desperately wants to get her power back. So even though she has been very distrustful of witches, very distrustful of Agatha, she begrudgingly agrees to go on this journey and sees if she can get her goal.
I love it. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
What's it like to, because you've obviously worked for Disney before. I love the fact that you were in the character program. Because I have a few friends that were in the character program.
Yeah.
And I find that so wonderful. What was your favorite character at Disney to play?
I would say Pluto. Kids really lost it for Pluto. Yeah. Yeah. Because dogs are so cute and fun, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, you remind me of my dog at home." And I'd be like, "What? I shouldn't. I'm standing on two legs and towering over you.
I'm talking
and I'm talking to you. Like, well, we didn't talk. Like, Pluto was able to make two noises. Every character who wasn't a face character could make a kiss noise, like,
okay.
And then Pluto had two. He could do a kiss or a slurp with his tongue.
Oh, because he's like licking, like that's his lick.
Yeah. Yeah, because Pluto's tongue would hang out of the mouth and you could lick the kids.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
The rule, so my kids, like my daughter is obsessed with Disney. It's one of the coolest things to see, like the whole world through her eyes. And one of the things that I love, and I don't even know if there's any truth to this, so you'll have to tell me. Is it true that the characters at Disney cannot break a hug until a child does?
I've never heard that before.
No?
But maybe. I don't remember that being part of the training.
No?
But I could see that being a thing. I don't really remember the hugs. So I don't remember if I ever was like, okay, that's enough, kid. I could see why they'd probably want the kid to like fully have the experience and not be pushed away by an adult. But yeah, I don't remember being explicitly told that. But also when you're working there, you do want to extend the magic for the kids. Like I do think you want to let them have a full experience. So I think maybe even if it's not an official rule, I think that's like maybe an unspoken thing that people probably would want the kid to have a full hug.
Yeah. I love the sort of like the mystery and of Disney in the sense that, and I know that they did this with the characters, that you have to say like you're a friend of when you play a character. And I went to Children's Hospital dressed as bo-katan, and I wasn't allowed to break character. Like I was, the goal was to stay as Bo and not as Katee at all, because you don't want to break that for the kids. You want to like maintain that element of fantasy for them.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, whenever they have the whole lingo, like whenever you're in front of patrons at the park, you're on stage. And when you go behind the scenes, you're backstage. But it's like even if you're on the sidewalk, it's a stage. Like everyone's watching you, everyone's noticing your actions. Like for that moment, you really are Pluto, and you have to like display that until you go to the break room, and then you can take everything off and chill for a minute.
Yeah. When you booked SNL, what was your audition?
It was a lot. It was like sending self tapes of characters, and then in person shows. So like a showcase with a bunch of other performers too, in front of head writers, producers, and then went into the studio to do a camera test in front of the producers and head writers again, and some cast members. And it was like 2 camera, and you're like on the stage where they do the monologues.
Yeah.
And then there's interviews. It's it was weeks long process. But also I've heard stories where people had like completely different processes than I did. So I think it varies. Yeah, but that was mine. And then and then I got cast, and I was there for 3.5 years. And it was like truly like a training ground. It really felt like I did so much, like everyone does so much, but like when you get hired as a performer, you also have to write your own sketches too.
Yeah.
And I feel like I left there like a better writer, a better editor, like a better collaborator. It really like gave me so many tools for any project I could possibly do in the future.
Yeah. Is there a character that you created that you didn't use that you're dying to use at some point?
Oh, interesting. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure. I have no idea. I mean, that was like I was on the show like 10 years ago. So
yeah.
And we wrote like at least 3 sketches a week, if not more, personally. So like I have I do have holes in my brain as far as memory goes. Like sometimes people will be like, "Oh yeah, you did this thing that was so funny." And I'm like, "Huh?" I guess I did. But like so much happens every single week. It's like it's hard to remember.
Yeah, of course. That's crazy. I'm so like curious about stand up and your process about writing your one woman show and like how long did that take you? Were you working on it for a long time and working it at different venues and things?
Yeah, I think like it takes years. For some people it does not take that long. They can pump out a special once a year. I do need to like live a bit and like figure out what's funny again. Like my first special, I think, was kind of an accumulation of like a lot of different bits that I had created over a span of like 8 years. Like it was like things that I thought were funny 5 years ago, and things I thought were funny like 2 weeks before I did the special. So it was like kind of like a mix of stuff. And then after that, after I filmed the special, I remember being like, well, do I think anything's funny anymore? Like, do I know how to write? Like, my brain was fully empty, and I was like, will I ever do this again? And then eventually, I did start writing again, and then producing more stuff. And I think I filmed my second special. Gosh, 2017 is when the first one came out. So, is that right? Yes. And then the next one came out 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever that math is, but it took from the last special to when I filmed it
like
to
5 years.
kind of 5 years to curate new stuff. And I also like creating a show. Like I don't want just like an hour of jokes. I don't want like just like I want it to all connect and like feel like this is a complete piece, and that takes time to kind of craft. How do these things relate to each other? How do I want it to move? How do I want it to flow? And I like crafting things that way.
Well, it's clear that you do, because you have so many like pullbacks and throwbacks throughout that you're pulling into like the present like bit that's just from the beginning. It's awesome. It's so cool.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I mean, a lot of crazy shit has happened in the last 5 years. So it's,
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's not like there's like a lack of crazy shit to pull from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I also like pulling like, even if I like have things that feel political, socially, or whatever, I still like starting from a place of like personal experience. So yeah, it's kind of like, what have I done, or like what's going on in my life that I want to talk about, that I'm ready to talk about, that I think I can like tie into what's happening today.
Mm-hmm. Are you working on another show?
I'm actually not.
You're not?
I'm actually like, yeah. I mean, like a little bit. I'm like writing some things down. I think my brain's like always spinning in a way, but I'm also like taking my time to actually like figure out what I think is funny, and like it'll happen when it happens. But I like when artists take their time and like figure out what they actually want to say before they just release content into the universe, because I feel like we're in a period where it's just like, well, we have to like stay relevant. We have to keep pumping out content over and over and over again. But my favorite people are the people who wait and it's like, oh yeah, we haven't heard from this person in like 7 years, and then they just came back with this like amazing thing that you like. Thank God they took their time, because the quality is great. So yeah, I'm not trying to rush myself.
Yeah. Are you living the dream that you manifested for yourself right now?
It does feel that way. Yeah. I've like, this show truly is a dream, literally is a dream. I've wanted to be in the Marvel universe for a while, and I've also wanted to be a witch for a while. And so like to
Is it the brooms?
I've just been playing with brooms for so long, and now I finally get to ride one on screen.
I found a reason.
And yeah, it really is like, it's such a wonderful show to be a part of. And yeah, it is a bit like, wow, I guess I'm really doing it. Like, it's happening.
Has the reception been positive for the show?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that people were excited about the Agatha character and knowing that this was coming.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Catherine Hahn is so talented and beloved, and I think people are excited to see her do anything. But she like took over this character in a way that is like so impressive. She adds so many layers and depth to it, and this show really just expounds on that like incredibly. And it's really also exciting to see just more magic in the MCU, and see these other characters and learn about this other community. And yeah, I love it. Even if I wasn't on the show, I would already be a fan of this show.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad to be part of it. And I'm glad people are also like loving it and posting their theories about it and getting really excited about it each week. It's very exciting.
Yeah. From my understanding, Jennifer exists in potentially different places, like different storylines outside of Agatha. Have you started manifesting that?
Yeah. Oh, even when we were shooting, I was manifesting it. I was telling everyone, put me anywhere, coach. Like, put me in. I'll do anything. Bring me back. I would love to.
I know. I feel like I do that too. Like everywhere I go, I'm like, so my character's not dead. She could work anywhere.
What do we think?
I'm available.
Yeah.
What surprised you the most about filming the show?
I think like all the serious moments, because Agatha, the way she was portrayed in WandaVision, I think was very like goofy and like the comedic relief. So, and then I come from a comedy background, so I think I kind of assumed that I was going to be part of the comedic relief. But once we started shooting and I saw all the scripts, I was like, oh, there's some real shit happening here. And there's funny moments for sure, but it's like, it's not, I guess it's a dark comedy essentially, but it's like not a comedy. And that is fun to be a part of. It's fun to be able to like play different tones and different colors and shades with this dialogue and also perform with these amazing performers. And yeah, it's that I think that was surprising to me. I think maybe I thought it'd be more silly, but it certainly isn't.
Is that different for you?
Yeah, I mostly am in comedies or the comedic relief in something serious. And it felt very refreshing to be trusted in that way, to be more emotional and be required to do things that I haven't done before. And yeah, it just makes me want to do more.
Is your process different for comedy and drama?
Mm, I guess, yeah. I think because I am a comedian and
Mm.
I have more training in comedy, it's like secondhand. It feels very easy and not in a bad way, just like, I know my strengths.
Yeah.
And I think for doing more dramatic things, it there is a bit of like I gotta concentrate. Like I have to like I can't just lean on my crutches that I would
Yeah.
usually do in a situation like this. I actually like need to figure out what's underneath this character in this moment, which is all training I've had before. Like I
Mhm.
studied theater in college and have done dramatic things before, but like because I've been so comedy focused for most of my career, it's like, oh, okay, what did we learn? How do we analyze this? And it's fun. It really did feel like a play in some moments because we were really like breaking down each word in some of these scenes, being like, what means what? Why are we saying this? What's the intention? Where are we going from here? And that's like, very exciting for an actor.
Do you get nervous? Like, were you intimidated when you saw some of the dramatic scenes?
Not, I mean, like, yes and no. I think like a little bit because everyone also is so talented. So I was like, oh, I hope I'm not like the stinker of the group. But also, I like same thing with like singing next to Patti LuPone. I invite these challenges. I would love, give me a chance. I would love to try to do this thing
Yeah.
and see what comes out. So ultimately, I was just excited to do it.
Huh. Um, what do you hope is next for you in this business?
I would love to do more action stuff. There's some
Mm.
action stuff happening in this show, and I'm a big fan of like flashy blockbuster action films, and I would love to do some. I like learning choreography. I like running around. I love getting dirty. It's just like just so fun to do. Yeah, that would be very cool. Would love to do more rom-coms. Would love to do anything, really. I just love performing.
Yeah.
Also would like to direct at some point in time. Like I've directed some stage stuff in the past and some videos here and there, but like not on a larger scale. So I feel like one day that would be a nice way to also put my voice out there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What kind of stories would you tell as a director?
I really just love character-driven stories, and I love relationships and seeing relationships that are messy and like uh imperfect. Yeah, stuff like that.
You have talked about, and I find this so interesting. I saw an interview that you did, and you talked about how you're a late in life lesbian.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
This is true.
and and I found it so interesting because it's you talked about how you've played lesbian so many times, and that you thought maybe the casting directors see something that you didn't necessarily see in yourself. I'm so
Mm-hmm.
intrigued by this because I find sexuality so interesting, and I love
Mm-hmm.
how sexuality is becoming more fluid in sort of or socially acceptable to be more fluid. And I'm curious, like what you think it was about this time in your life where you were either comfortable or saw that in yourself that made you go, oh, that is who I am.
Yeah. I think I knew for a while, for a long time, that I am not straight.
Okay.
Like I knew at least that, but I didn't. All my experiences have been with men, so I didn't really know how to compare it. And I well, I mean, I said this in the them interview too. Really, when I got off my birth control, everything felt like it awakened, and I was like, oh,
Really?
wait a minute. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to like label birth control as like the reason I didn't know what was going
like,
on. But
ladies, get off your birth control. We'll all be lesbians.
that's the only thing holding us back.
That's it.
Get off
It's
the birth
just
control.
the hormones. God, the man.
The man's literally trying to keep us down.
Literally on our knees. What was it about was it just the hormones? What was it about the birth control?
I think the hormones, yeah. I didn't really know what my body felt like since I was 16. Like I was on birth control from 16 to like mid 30s, and eventually it was like, and I was like, I had an IUD. I was doing ortho tricycline at one point. I had the arm implant at one point, and like all of them for different reasons didn't work with my body. And eventually I was like, let me just stop everything for a second, see what's happening, regulate everything, and then like think about what I would want for birth control in the future. And then when I got off it, I was like, oh, I love this. Whatever this feeling is, I love it and don't want to go back. And yeah, I think that kind of helped push whatever thought process I already had going into hyperdrive.
Was it because your special is like there's a lot of dick talk. There's so many dick jokes. And I was like, wow, that's a huge awakening for someone to have. Like,
yeah, I think, I guess I have been very open about all the dicks in my life. and I, not that, I still like keeping my private life private, but I didn't necessarily want my identity to be private. So I'm glad it's out there. For people in my life and people who have seen me and know me, no one is surprised. They're like, yeah. But I guess for people who've only seen me on like TV shows or, certain things here and there, maybe they're surprised. Although there were a lot of comments online that were also like, was she in? Like, what are we talking? Are we talking about the same person? Like, I never thought she was straight.
Right? I thought she was straight. I love that.
What are we talking about? Who came out? And they're not wrong. but I'm glad. Yeah, I'm just glad that it's out there, I guess, and I will just continue to live my life as I'm living it. But yeah, it's nice to let people in a little bit on that process.
What is it about wanting to safeguard that privacy? Like, what is it? What inspired that? Because we live in an age where everyone is so open about everything in their life, and it is rare to be the opposite.
Yeah, I think I've just had experiences with people like taking things out of context or like really like nitpicking and tearing things apart, where I'm like, oh, I don't want you to touch these parts. These parts feel special to me. And I don't think everyone's owed everything. I think, I'm a creator. You can have what I create. I feel very comfortable giving up the art and being like, after I'm done with it and after it goes into the world, it's not mine anymore. But there's things about my life that are mine and not anybody else's. Yeah. So, yeah, it's more like keeping my peace and making sure I'm not just allowing everybody inside things that feel safe to me.
It's refreshing to talk to people that are that safeguard things that are important. Like, you can't have this.
Yeah, I think there's an uptick in people understanding that too. Like, there's more talk about parasocial relationships and people being like, you don't have to love these celebrities like that. You don't have to like look up where they live or look up where they're going every day, or like, these aren't your friends. That's their job. Yeah. And it's okay that you like it, but you don't like they don't owe you anything just because they're doing their job.
Yeah.
And thank God we're talking about that. So I hope that continues and people get a better understanding of like, oh, I can be a fan and not make this person feel uncomfortable or like be invasive in any kind of way.
Yeah. I end everything with like a question that I'm not a good enough interviewer to come up with. It's just out of a box. And so I just randomly pick a question. Okay. Here we go. Oh, this is cool. Okay. What do you think that people are overly impressed with?
I mean, it's the first thing that popped in my head, but I do think people are overly impressed when. Oh, that's maybe not fair to say. I don't. I was all right. I think people are overly impressed when men are nice. when they're just like being like a nice, considerate human. Sometimes
that should be the entry point.
Yeah, that like yes. Sometimes you just see a man doing the bare minimum. Like I saw a video where like a man, I don't know, was carrying a baby and was putting luggage up above the seat on an airplane, and they're like, "Oh my God, Dad of the Year!" And it's like, well, moms do that all the time. No one's applauding it. Like and of course, I also understand the societal constraints of masculinity and how men have also been conditioned for so long to not feel a need or like have an understanding that they like have duties as well as a parent or as a spouse or whatever. So I also understand they're doing their best. They're also working hard to do the work to figure out the internal unlearning they have to do to get to a point that is, making everybody around them feel good. Mm-hmm. And that being said, I also do feel like people are just like, wow, 5 stars for something really just like texting back or like, something really basic.
It's okay.
Can you believe he remembered my mom's name?
I know.
Why wouldn't he? Like this? Should be the bare minimum.
And every year remembers your anniversary.
Yeah,
like you would hope.
And
so.
these are
it's on the family calendar.
These are wonderful things. We're so thankful that it's happening. But yeah, like it would be. Of course, they should.
I also think though that like I don't know, like as a woman, I have this like this thing in me that wants to be like, I am so physically capable and like I do it all. Like that is, I get so much pride from being like, I don't need your help, that like I've trained my husband to be like, oh, she has it. I was like walking down the airport the other day with like a baby on the front of me, like the heavy one that's like 25 pounds, a huge backpack on the back, and like also like pulling something else. And my husband literally looked at me and goes, I know that this makes you feel good, but you look like a crazy person.
And I look bad because I'm not helping you.
Like, yeah. Like, can I at least take the bag, please? Like, fine. Fine.
I've been that person too. Yeah, it's like, it's on both sides. There's also an over independence that women are getting, pumped into. Because it's, we got to be. We have to be independent. We have to be strong. We have to be all these things, but also carry my stuff.
I know.
Also carry my stuff.
Yeah, please carry my stuff. Thank you for taking the time. I cannot wait to see what's next. I love the show, and I hope that everybody watches it. And there's many seasons.
Let's manifest it. Let's put it out in the universe.
Let's manifest it. Absolutely. I love that. Where can people, like for people that have been under a rock, where can people find the show and where can they find you?
Agatha All Along is on Disney Plus, and you can find me at The Sheer Truth. That's my social handle on Instagram and Twitter and I think TikTok. And my stand-up special, The First Woman's on Hulu. And yeah. Look, and also just Google my name.
I highly suggest that everybody watch the stand-up show. It was, I love stand-up, and I laughed. Not only did I laugh my ass off, Sasheer, I felt like seen in so many ways.
Oh, wow.
And it was
I
really a
love that.
great show. It was so awesome.
Thank you so much. I really
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for taking the time. I wish you nothing but massive success.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Hindsight. Thanks for being here. I'm so excited to have you. And so is my always over-the-top excitement co-host, Jeph. So you're not even I just called you a co-host.
I'm a
Jeph,
guest here.
Does
that mean I can leave
here.
anytime I want?
You can.
Yeah.
There's like no contract holding you to this.
That
the
is
fact
true,
that you
yeah.
continue to show up. I don't know if it says more about you or more about me.
It might betray some of my true feelings.
At least we're not doing this at like 6 a.m.
Yeah. It's not like our live views on the podcast where I'm very happy that we don't have to talk on those. It's all typing.
It's true. Although it would be a lot easier for me to talk. But those are I thoroughly enjoy doing the mornings. But they are hard to do every single week, and not for me, but for my husband, with 2 babies and no help in the morning. But I'm curious if it's actually messing with our algorithm on YouTube, because since we started doing them, our views have actually gone down a little bit on YouTube. So I'm just,
Really?
I mean, chasing that algorithm on YouTube is a nightmare anyway, and you can't do it.
Yeah.
But I am curious if it's messed with us.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea how that would work. I feel like anybody I've ever talked to about YouTube algorithm stuff, it's like, well, here's a transition. It's like talking to a witch, because it's like the spells and the potions that you need in order to like conjure up viewers for your show is like...
Yeah, it is. And then furthermore, I have a bone to pick with YouTube. You are supposed to get a fucking plaque when you hit 100,000 subscribers.
And you haven't got one?
No. Furthermore, I'm almost to 200, so now I want 2.
Maybe they're
2.
Maybe they're
YouTube.
holding off for the 500,000.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you should get
They're
the
just
silver.
dangling a carrot.
You should get the silver thing. I wonder. We'll have to talk to YouTube about that.
I know, they never
or maybe
sent it.
Do you have the wrong address on your?
You know, it's possible. It's possible because I don't give out my home address, but we have been giving out our home address a bit more since we moved to Portland, just because like logistically, I've always given my my business manager's address. And since we moved here, we've sort of had to give our home address. And I've had many people show up at the front door. And,
That's
scary. But like not like, like a fan, but I've had like people that are like, oh yeah, so I saw, here that you live in the neighborhood and just thought I'd say hi or something like that. And so we're having a gate put up.
I mean, probably smart.
It's probably smart. Probably smart. So this guy comes to my house, and I'm curious how you feel about this, Jeffrey, and then we'll get into Sasheer because I know that you had that beautiful segue and I actually just threw us out of it. But
Sure. I'll try to come up with another one.
Okay, so the election is coming up, as we all know, very soon now. So everyone go vote. I'm not going to be that person to tell you for who. Just exercise your right and our privilege as Americans to go vote. Go do that.
It's free. Doesn't cost you anything.
Literally free. Did you know that other countries, sideshow, other countries, you actually are required by law to vote, which is what I think it should be in the United States. I think you should be required to vote.
I love that you just had a little Freudian slip there, and I think you meant to say side note, but you said sideshow.
I did say sideshow.
Other countries, sideshows.
I saw myself do it, and then I was like, My
You're
head is
thinking
on Star
you're
Wars.
thinking of Canada again, and you're
Yeah,
like,
I think that it should
sideshow
be
Canada.
required to,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some countries that it is required by law, and I think I would agree that might be helpful here, but I don't think there's any chance in hell that's ever going to get passed in this
No.
country. But just
No.
go vote.
It's my damn right to
Yeah.
not vote.
So this guy shows up at your door.
Right. So this guy comes to my door to talk to me about the candidate that they are. So they're doing that. What's it called when you do the campaign where you're out and you're going to people's doors to talk about candidates?
Canvassing.
Thank you. Canvassing. So this person showed up. I was outside with the dogs doing something, and the dogs like chased him down. So I'm screaming at the dogs because, like, God forbid my dog bite someone on my property. I'm sure I'd still be sued. So I'm screaming. They come back. The dogs come back. Everything's fine. And he starts to talk to me about his candidate. And I said, and was with his daughter as well. And lovely people. But he said, and I said, truthfully, I don't know. We just moved here. I don't know anything about the candidates here. I'm going to do my own research before I vote. But I really, so I don't know anything about them. I don't know anything. But I was like, and I apologize. I don't have time right now. And he goes, well, I don't know anything about Battlestar Galactica.
So catty.
And I was like,
yeah,
okay. Wait,
yeah.
okay.
You should have said, yeah, I know. I've never seen it either.
I should have. But like, so that was like that weird thing in my mind where I was like, okay, so I'm registered to vote. There's my address. You come to my door knowing that it's me, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But then it just like, it was the first time where I felt a little like awkward. Like I was a little like, please don't come to my house.
That feels inappropriate and like maybe something you should report.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But then he was also with his daughter. So I think that it was just sort of like a thing. And maybe he thought I was being rude. Maybe I was being a bit short because I was frustrated that the dogs had, that I was screaming at the dogs. And I felt so bad because, she's like 12. And the dogs did nothing. But I think that, so maybe I was a bit, on guard. But I was a bit like, we need that gate now. Like now. Because if my dog bites you on this side.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you came through a gate.
Yeah.
That was locked.
Yeah.
I don't think you can sue me.
What kind of gate are you going to get? Is it going to be gothic? Is it going to be modern? It's going to be one of the ones that kids ride by and scare each other by wanting to go in there.
Could you imagine? It should be that. No, it's just like a basic gate. And like, you've got to go with the stupid laws of the city where you can't go too high. And, you could go to the actual city and like petition, which I was going to do in Los Angeles. You can petition for a higher gate, but you have to have a reason. And having stalkers isn't a big enough reason, FYI, just so you know. I tried. It's not a good enough reason.
They were like, how tall are your stalkers?
Children, a bunch of children obsessed with baby Grogu. What are your thoughts on canvassing, Jeph?
I think it's great for people to do. I've done some like phone banking, but I've never done like boots on the ground canvassing.
Yeah. Yeah. One of my girlfriends just went out canvassing this last weekend, and she was like, I don't know how I feel about it. Because she's canvassing for a candidate that she knows they're going into an area that is not receptive to that candidate. And so, she was like, I'm a little terrified. I was like, you should be. Like, I'm glad your husband's going with you.
Yeah. I mean, it is wild how politics have gotten to the point where you're scared of the other side of things, but
it really is.
Yeah.
I was listening to the news the other day, and it was obviously a podcast news source. And it was talking about the hurricanes that we had in the beginning of October in Florida. And one of the reporters said how long do you think it's going to take for this to become politicized? And she said that it already had been, and the hurricane hadn't even hit yet.
Yes, that's true. It had been.
Yeah. And I think it's really crazy to me that we as a society, and this is not just the United States, this is seemingly every country now, that that the opposition is the enemy now in any country. It's and before it, I feel like before we had a bit more patience for and sort of understanding that, like, you know, people have different opinions. That's their right. Doesn't make them a bad person.
Mm-hmm.
Used to be that.
I feel like you're just trying to avoid talking about what you really want to talk about right now, which is, are witch brooms dildos?
It's the best. It is the best segue.
Yeah.
Because I do feel like in this political climate, I could use a broomstick with hallucinogenics up my vagina.
It's a woman's right to choose, right?
It is a woman's right to choose.
Yeah.
And I choose not wood.
That is, though, like, in a person who doesn't believe in a woman's right to choose or has feelings about the radical left, that is like what is in their fever dream, is like, well, they're putting psychedelics up their vaginas. That's like what they think is actually happening. So here's my question for you. Did you watch WandaVision?
I did.
So my question is, so WandaVision was like the first Disney Plus show that was out of that. I mean, it wasn't the first show. They had a bunch of other things going on there, but it was like the first big, like, oh, Disney is taking their big film properties and making them into shows. And it was a big success. And then I can't remember. I mean, I think there were rumors of The Mandalorian happening before that, but The Mandalorian then came along and it was the other big, like, that's the first Star Wars show.
Was WandaVision out before Mandalorian?
I'm pretty sure. I may be wrong. Let me look it up.
I feel like the first season of Mandalorian had already come out.
Well, let's see. WandaVision was January 15th, 2021.
Yeah.
Damn, you're right. November 12th, 2019. Okay, let me rephrase this question then.
I love that I knew that.
Yeah, well, of course you knew it. It's your franchise. So WandaVision was like the first big Marvel television show that came out, and The Mandalorian was the first Star Wars show that came out. And, you know, it was sort of, they were both promising these bigger universes, which have...
Didn't Loki come out before WandaVision?
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure that one I bet I'm right about.
The fact that I just keep correcting you.
This one I'm pretty sure I'm right about. June 9th, 2021. So it came out in the summer of the same year. And January 15th, 2021 was WandaVision.
Okay.
So that one I was right about.
Okay.
So I'm like...
Okay.
I'm even losing what my question was here.
I know. So you were asking it because WandaVision was like the big, like, DC, like, Marvel, like, tentpole for Disney.
Right. WandaVision was that. Mandalorian was that for Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't know if we've talked about this already or not. If we have, I'm sorry, but people are probably still find it interesting. But like, did you already know that Bo was going to be in The Mandalorian when that first season came out?
No, I did not.
And what was the like thought process going on? Because Clone Wars was not even on at the time, right?
Clone Wars had already aired.
Right, but the final season, had the final season aired? Here we go again. I was like,
yes. Yes.
Yes, it had. May 4th.
Yeah.
2020.
So I didn't know. I did not watch The Mandalorian when it first aired.
Mm-hmm.
I was like a little late to the party.
Yeah.
But I had heard about it, and I sort of knew that it was, coming out. I'm trying to figure out if I actually saw Dave before Mandalorian came out, when I saw him at Celebration in Chicago, where we were promoting the final season of Clone Wars. And I had heard about Mandalorian. I don't think it had come out yet, but the first season was already in the bank. The can, they'd already shot it, and everything. And that is where I sort of had this weird idea because Dave is a friend of mine, to corner Dave and to say to Dave, is this my character's Mandalorian? And he went, yeah. And I went, and she's not dead. And he went, no. And I said, what's your timeline for the Mandalorian like? Because I didn't know. And I said, does Bo fit in the timeline? And he was like, I mean, I'm doing the math on her age. And I was like, And he goes, yeah, she fits. And I went, cool. And just left it at that. Like, literally, that was it. And I was just sort of like,
I imagine this whole time, though, you're like up in the corner with him, like, and does she fit?
I know, right? You know what's funny, though? And I don't know if it's that I just have such a lack of confidence when it comes to myself in bigger properties, or that it's that thing that we had talked about. Even though Mandalorian is television, it always seemed like such a massive property to me, Star Wars. And I never dreamed that my career would end up in a place like that, because I had always been television, and primarily low budget television. You know what I mean? So I honestly didn't think that they would hire me to play Bo.
Right.
I just assumed that they would recast. It would have sucked, but I did joke about it. I always thought of, okay, so who are redheads that are super famous that, like, that is what I thought would have happened. And even though I knew I was capable, even though I knew that I was right for the role, I figured it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? That's not where my career is. And luckily I was wrong, or at least they decided to, go for it. So yeah, so I did not know. I thought Sasheer was really, really funny.
Yeah, she's
you
great.
can see that obviously she's funny, but you can see that her wheels are spinning. She is incredibly driven, and she has a checklist of things that she wants to accomplish in this industry. And she's already planting seeds. She wants to do an action movie. Yeah,
it does feel like she's on the cusp of a pretty exciting career.
Yeah, it really does. And she's super talented. And really engaging and open, and but also maintains her private life, which I really respect. And
she's probably got a huge gate.
What?
She probably has a really big gate.
No, at her house. I literally was thinking, what does the way she walks have to do with this, Jeph?
She's strutting her stuff,
Strutting her shit. She got a large gate.
Yeah.
A large gate. It's good for the posture.
Yeah.
I was a little scared to ask the question about the late in life lesbian.
Well, I was going to ask you overall. I mean, that particular part was funny in a way, and especially because at the end of the episode with her card, her answer was about men being nice and how it's overrated, which, great.
Jeph, just don't do the bare minimum anymore.
Yeah, no, that's all I try to do, just a little bit more so I can go see
for the people around you, of course.
Yeah, it's very performative.
I was scared to ask that question, but I wanted to ask it because I was so curious about it. I was so curious, and I go in with zero judgment whatsoever. I was just so curious about how you can be so openly straight in your sort of outward persona, as far as your jokes on stage, things like that, and then realize that you are attracted and interested in the same sex. I was so curious about that. And I loved her answer. She blamed it on birth control.
Birth control. Yeah. Yeah. Your hormones are all out of whack. I don't know.
But I thought that her answer was really, really, really funny about how she was basically jacked up on hormones her entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And then went off the hormones and finally felt like herself and was like, oh. You guys make sure to watch Agatha All Along tomorrow. Super, super excited. Catherine Hahn is just a genius. And I'm so happy that she has her show. And
yeah, she's great.
God, she's just good. She's so good. We should read some comments, though.
Let's do it.
Okay. This is about Paul's episode. At Media Archive 2/Z9F says, speaking of Funko Pops, is there any Battlestar Galactica ones? I know Bo-Katan has 2. Is there one of her unmasked? Bo-Katan actually has like 5 Funkos. It's a lot of Funkos for Bo, and only 1 for Starbuck. So there are Funkos for Battlestar. There is a number 6. There's a Cylon. There is an Eddie, a Commander, and there is a Starbuck. I don't know who else there is, and I don't know where you can find them. I'm sure you can find them online. They're hard to find. I have 4 of them.
They just send them to you, right?
Yeah, right. They don't. I have to buy all that shit.
There's one on eBay for $20.
$20. All right, there you go. There's one on eBay for $20. Go get it.
They're pretty affordable on eBay.
Yeah. At Arakio says, how did we go from Donut Earth to tentacle porn? Seamlessly.
Yeah, it takes skill, but I feel like Katie and I have mastered the art of weaving together various topics.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All makes sense in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. You give me a hole, I'll give you a tentacle.
We are looking for merch ideas, right?
Oh my God. Could you imagine? Oh my God. Somebody out there, we will never show it, but somebody out there should draw us a donut, that iconic donut from Los Angeles that says donut on the top of it. That's in a lot of movies with tentacle porn around it. And you're going to have to Google what tentacle porn is. And then please send us photos.
I would guess that most of your fan base is at least aware of it. And I don't mean that as an insult. I just mean that as it's adjacent to a lot of the sci-fi anime.
Are you saying my career's adjacent to tentacle porn?
I'm not saying that.
Fuck, Jeph.
You do know what it is. So.
Because I Googled it. Someone told me not to. And then I Googled it and I fell down a rabbit hole.
Yeah,
or
of course.
A donut hole. Let's get into the mail sec.
Let's do it.
Mail sec. We're going to the mail sec. Mail sec. Why are we calling it mail sec?
Come on. God, I snorted a lot in this episode. I just love it. I'm going to meet him in Germany.
Yeah, that's right. Nicolas reached out to us. Hi, Nicolas, if you're listening.
Hi, Nick.
He's in Germany, and I think he is excited to come see Katie in Germany.
Yeah, Nicolas, I'm excited to meet you. I mean, it's going to be awesome. I'm just really thankful that you had the time in your life to create that gem for us.
I think everybody's thankful.
Yeah, I love it. And I like we've had performed for us before. I think we should do it in German.
Yeah, we have had that. That song has weirdly been stuck in my head. The woman who sent us her German version of it. I just like walk around the house and I go, Briefsack.
Yeah, exactly. Wasn't it? What was it? What did it sound like?
Briefsack.
Briefsack.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Katie says, hi, Katie and Jeph. Jeph, you're getting mail.
I know.
I'm wondering if you've learned any fun special skills from working on all of your different projects that you still use today, or if you just have a favorite skill you've learned. Sincerely, the boring Katee. Spelling, not the boring Katee, the boring spelling. P.S. Going back to Bear McCreary's episode, you asked if Starbuck ever said all along the watchtower, which she doesn't. But in the final episode, she does say there must be a way out of here, which is a lyric from the song. I just binged it for the first time recently, so it was fresh in my memory. Katee, it may have been that was the thing that they gave me to say instead of, or that I, after 20 years, have forgotten, and that's what it was all along. But in my mind, maybe there was a joke on set where I said, at least I don't have to say all along the watchtower.
Yeah, and then they wrote it in.
I don't know. It could have literally been that. But now we know. What is the favorite skill that I've learned? Oh, you know what? So I learned how to do field dressing on serious injuries.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it helped me on a fishing boat once. So I was on a fishing boat and a fish hook on a tuna. It was a Rapala. So I think that's what they're called. So they've got hooks on either side of the lure.
Mm-hmm.
One side of the hook was in the tuna's mouth. The other side was in the front of my friend's shin. And if you know tuna, they move a lot. And that tuna was hooked and then it flipped off the hook. And then that lure went into the leg and that fish was still alive. So that lure was ripping up and down.
Oh, God. Ugh.
On a leg on a fishing boat. And so got the fish, off of the hook and then had to stop the bleeding really fast. And I knew what to do, and I grabbed duct tape and a maxi pad. And
is this what they taught you specifically?
Well, you need a compress, but a maxi pad actually absorbs blood and then becomes it actually absorbs the blood and then holds the blood and then seals, it doesn't seal your vagina, but it seals the wound with the duct tape is what, seals the wound with the pressure. But yeah, but my brain, because I had gone through that sort of training for Battlestar, my brain didn't freeze at the sight of blood.
Did you clean the wound or just?
I did.
Boom?
I cleaned the wound first. Yeah, I cleaned it, made sure that the metal was out of it, and then applied a massive amount of pressure.
You didn't put stitches on yourself, though.
No, but I could do it. I could do stitches in a heartbeat. I could do it. I also, on a fishing boat, though, we also have super glue. So I may or may not have also put some super glue on.
That's a thing I learned as a thing recently.
Hey, stop barking. Happy. No, Happy.
And this is the part where we keep these things in the episode while Katee goes and yells at her dog.
Go on.
That's a great segue, actually, into our next email.
Eat our nanny. Tiffany says, hey, Katee and Jeph. I listened to the whole episode like I always do and wanted to say this. I'm 42 years old, a vet tech of 18 years, and have been working with dogs since I was 16. That's 26 years of shit juices. God, I love you. So I am well familiar with the butt of a dog. FYI, cats have anal glands too that occasionally need to be expressed. I would so much rather do a dog than a cat. FYI. Yeah. Lots of love from a fan. We'll meet someday, Tiffany. Did you know that, Jeph?
I didn't know that, but I imagine it must be much more difficult to express a cat's anal glands than a dog.
That was my first thought too.
And is it because the cats are harder to wrangle or their buttholes are smaller?
I think it's because cats are assassins. And they're they're really fast.
Yeah.
They're really fast. And those claws are ruthless.
Yeah.
I just had a vision of trying to clean the anal glands of a hamster.
Oh my. That's a horrible vision. I don't wish that vision upon anybody.
That's what it sounds like.
Now everybody has that vision. You
I
know,
do.
Katee, you're known for your great performances, and everybody has just been graced with another brilliant performance by Katee
Yeah.
Sackhoff.
Of a hamster squealing and
Yes.
anal gland juice squirting out of its butt.
Yeah.
You are welcome.
In Welcome World.
You are welcome. I think we're done.
Yeah.
I think we're done. So we'll just, we'll say goodbye. We'll see you next Tuesday. And that's what's up.